Hey guys, welcome to Wrench to Drive. I don't know how much action this video is going to get, because I don't know. I'm not entirely sure how much sense it makes, but I'm going to walk you through it, and you can tell me what you think in the comments if you're interested or not. So what you see here, guys, is a TRX-4 chassis with Redcat Gen 8 axles installed. The reason I did that, guys, is I got a really good deal on a bunch of Traxxas parts, and what I wanted was the 2-speed transmission. That's what appealed to me, guys. It was I really enjoy this crawling thing. It's become something that's it's really a lot of fun. And I have to admit, the one thing that I coveted for my trusty Redcat Gen 8 was a 2-speed transmission. Not because it's the be-all and end-all, guys. I'm not entirely sure that you need one, but it's cool, guys. It's if you're a mechanical nerd, it's pretty neat to have a 2-speed transmission in your crawler. And what I found was you can get a Traxxas 2-speed transmission for about 45 bucks, which is cheap. Cheap. And it's a nice quality transmission, guys. I have to say I'm very impressed with it. So I'm going to walk you through the mods that you have to do to get Redcat axles to fit in a Traxxas chassis. And they're not that many, guys, so bear with me here. So first thing you have to do on the back end is you actually have to grind down the input shaft on the axle, because the Redcat ones are slightly longer than the Traxxas ones. So you grind a little bit off, and then you can mount up the Traxxas drive shaft, no problem. The reason I went with the Traxxas drive shafts, guys, is I got them cheap. I got them for like 10 bucks. Canadian. Really cheap, guys. You can't get any drive shafts for that kind of money. So I figured I'll order them, and I figured I'd use them. I think the Redcat ones will work too, but that was the reason I did it, guys. These are the Traxxas links, and the reason I used them is because I got them super cheap too. Less than 15 bucks, guys. Less than 15 bucks Canadian. How can you go wrong for that money, right? I mean, I'd be foolish not to buy them. So the links fit perfectly, guys. No problems whatsoever. Only catch is I had to use the upper mounts, and I believe the original Redcat setup used the lower mounts. I'd have to double check on that, guys. I believe that was the case though. And the pumpkin is very slightly angled, guys, but the back end seems to work fine, so I'm not too worried about it for now. I used the Redcat shock mounting points. I did not move them to the inside like the Traxxas setup uses, and I did angle the shocks a little bit, guys. It seemed a little bit on the stiff side and a little bit too high using the the vertical mounts, guys, but no big deal. The back end works great, guys. Works really well. This end obviously I didn't have to modify because it's a Traxxas drive shaft mating up to a Traxxas transmission. Alright, then in the front we did have to do a little bit of tweaking, guys. Biggest one, the third link in the front suspension is too long. In the Traxxas one is longer. The mount, as you can see, I had to do a little bit of finagling there. The mount on the axle is different, guys. The Traxxas one is farther forward and farther to the outside, guys. This is almost the right position right here. The way I use a couple of washers and a couple of nuts to make a standoff, and it's ran in a longer screw. That seems to work fine, guys, and judging by the diagrams in the Traxxas manual, I think that's pretty close, guys. It's not way off. Only difference is it is farther back, guys. How much difference that makes, I'm going to say it shouldn't make too much, but the shorter link I think is a tiny bit of an issue because the front end doesn't work quite as well as I might expect it to, guys. That's a 30mm section in there, guys, just so you know. And I'm actually using, I believe, I'm trying to remember now, I think one of these is a Traxxas link and one of them's a Redcat link. I just did it because the geometry worked out a little bit better, guys. The Traxxas links actually should work. And the length is the same, so you need a 30mm section in the middle there, guys. And the absolute easiest way to do that, sorry, I'm wrong, these are not Traxxas. These are actually, these are either two Redcats or they're two cheap SCX10 link ends, guys. Something along those lines. I believe they're the SCX10 link ends. The easiest way to get this to work, actually, if you have an M4 piece of threaded rod, you just cut about a 50mm piece of M4 threaded rod and use the Traxxas links. I did not have any M4 threaded rod. That's why I did this setup. I could have gone and bought some, but I figured, well, I'll just use what I have around the house instead. So the easiest way to fix that, guys, you buy yourself a piece of threaded rod, you use the Traxxas links, you're good to go. No problem. Alright, and then the other things we changed here, as you can see, I made some standoffs and I mounted the shocks at the link mount instead of using the Redcat shock mounts that are on top of the axles, guys. It sat up really high, and I'll show you when I flip this thing over that it sits pretty high as it is, guys. So it was a little silly, guys. So standoffs there, standoffs there to get the shocks mounted, and then I had to grind down the input shaft on the axle, like I said, same as the back. Then the transmission here, this transmission mount, I had to just grind off a little bit so that I could fit the drive shaft in there, guys. So clearly on the Traxxas, the pumpkin is a little bit shifted over to the outside, guys, because otherwise I wouldn't be having any interference there. So it was rubbing slightly, guys, and as the suspension moved, it would rub more. Try and get the angle here, guys, so you can see. We got lots of room in there now. And that's no big deal, guys. I just used this handy dandy rotary tool to do that. No problem. Super easy. Get in there, grind it all out, all good. So that was no big deal. Alright, last but not least, guys, little bit of finagling, because this servo horn is the Redcat servo horn, and the one interesting thing about the Traxxas servo horn is that it's up higher, guys. It raises up closer to being kind of level with the servo, as best as I could tell based on pictures. And what you'll see is that the panhard bar is, let's try and get a good angle here. Boop. The panhard bar is actually really close to the servo when the steering goes all the way to that side. So I had to do just a little bit of finagling. I put a different end on the panhard bar, I think. Yeah, I did, on the bottom end there. That's actually I think just an SCX10 cheapo end, because I just needed to get a little bit more angle on the panhard bar to make some room there, guys. So the geometry is just a hair off, but it seems to work, you know, basically alright, guys. And if you use the Traxxas servo horn, you're not going to have that problem. I didn't see that one coming, so I didn't have the Traxxas servo horn. And the other thing that we had to change is the steering link actually goes all the way to the outside instead of mounting there at the cross link there. The drag link? I forget which is which. Anyway, so not too much modding there, guys. Like this was literally just lengthening the steering link a little bit and mounting it to the outside. Let me try and get a little bit more light in there. Yeah, kind of hard to see that, but anyways, you get the idea, guys. Really easy. Some axles are mounted that way stock, and that's about it, guys. Servo's mounted in the standard Traxxas spot, and this is more or less exactly the way the Traxxas is set up, guys. And the only problem with this thing right now, guys, is the front end is a little bit stiff, and I think it's because I accidentally used these springs. They're out of some Redcat clone shocks, not actual Redcat shocks, and I think those springs are a little stiffer. It's hard to tell, but I'm going to take this apart and just put those the Redcat springs in there and see if that makes a difference, because the front end is just a hair stiff, guys. And it works fine, but that's the one thing that I would say is a little off, guys. Alright, and the whole point of the exercise, the 2-speed transmission, got her hooked up no problem. And this servo, guys, is it's a little bit bigger than the standard micro. It's just a cheap one I had kicking around, so you don't have to use the $40 Traxxas servo or the $30 clone Traxxas servo. You can use about a $10 servo and it works just fine, guys. I had to do just a hair bit of modifying because this is just sitting up on the servo mount. I didn't want to cut it off, so I just fudged it in there, guys. And then the only problem is down on the linkage there, you can probably see up top, I just had to grind a little bit of the battery tray away there, guys, because the linkage was touching, and that's because the servo's lifted up, guys. That's all that is. Otherwise it would work perfectly. And you do need to use that servo horn, guys, because this transmission, it's butter, guys. It works really, really well. The only thing is, when you shift gears, a lot of times the actuator will not go in all the way if it's not sitting just perfect, guys. So without the servo horn, without the servo horn, sorry, with the spring in there, that you can see there, guys, that spring right there, it gives you some flex in that servo horn, guys. If you use a solid servo horn, it really can't shift properly. So you do need to use that Traxxas servo horn. And mine came with it, so it's all good. And I got all these parts from Jenny's RC off of eBay. And as you can see, I got all the plastic, all the plastic sections, guys. Battery tray, everything, all the chassis plastic, front to back. I got the transmission, oh, la-di-da-di-da. I got the links, I got the drive shafts, and I had axles, so I wanted to use these Redcat portals. Basically, this all cost me about 150 Canadian pesos, guys. Not too bad, in my opinion. And some of the stuff I definitely didn't need, but with the plastic, the big thing it came with is the transmission mount. The motor mount, which you need with the transmission to get everything mated up just right. Without that, it's kind of hard to get that motor mated up. Not hard if you have one of these, because you can take measurements, guys, but if you don't have one of these, trying to get that motor in there just right would be a real adventure. So I decided to spend the money on the plastic for that purpose alone, basically. And all the plastic was about 40 bucks Canadian, which is not crazy, but I would have rather spent a little less, guys, but what are you going to do? That's the one part that I didn't totally want. The links, the drive shafts, the transmission, all that good stuff. Totally worth the money, guys. Oh, chassis rails. I also got the chassis rails, guys. They were like 10 bucks. Couldn't go wrong, guys. Could not go wrong. Yeah, it all worked out really well. So as you can see, I got it all put together and running. In the background, you probably hear some printing there, guys. That's just a body mount, so I can stick a Honcho body on here. Get it out for a little running, and yeah, it all works really good, guys. So running video coming soon. And the other thing that I was real interested in is how easy is it to use this transmission with something like a Redcat or something like an SCX-10 clone chassis. So down the road sometime, guys, keep an eye out for a video showing how to install this in other crawlers, guys, because if you find something like Jenny's RC on eBay, you can get one of these transmissions for not much money, guys. Really cheap. Like, you can't get a cheap Chinese one-speed transmission for much less money, guys. Where I live, they're about 40 bucks for the nice fancy metal one, and maybe more like 50 now, actually. They've gone up a little bit, but at one point they were 40. Anyways, and I mean, they look nice, but they're definitely nothing to get excited about, guys. The quality of the gears and everything's a little mediocre. This Traxxas one is really sweet, guys. It's so smooth. Everything's so nicely put together. It's pretty crazy, guys. So my nickel's worth is that you know, if you get onto Jenny's RC where they're parting out a brand new car and just selling the parts, you know, that's a brand new transmission, guys. You can't go wrong. So yeah, stay tuned for videos in the future where I'll show you how to put one of these transmissions in a Redcat and probably an SCX-10 clone, because I'm 100% sure it's doable, guys. It's just a question of what needs a little bit of tweaking. So what I'll do is down the road when I do that, I'm going to do kind of the same thing I did with this. I'll tell you what fits and what doesn't fit, and give you some measurements on what you need to tweak, guys. And hopefully save you some time and effort and hassle. And like I said, for this build, guys, really the only thing you had to do was that third link. Really easy. You just need a shorter link, guys, and then you got her up and running. If you want to do some more tweaking, you can definitely kind of go a little crazy and try and get it more accurate to the Traxxas geometry. But personally, I don't think there's a whole lot of point in that. One of the things I think I'd actually kind of like to do is move the servo a little bit. It's not too bad. It as you can see, the geometry here is not crazy or anything, but I find it's a little bit in the way where it is, guys. I don't know. I'll have to run it a little bit and see. And like I said, I'm putting in a body mount, a little custom body mount, so I can use my good old Honcho bodies. But yeah, there you go. So that's today's edition of Wrench to Drive. Oh, and you can see I'm running the Redcat electronics, guys. It works just fine. Oh, and the trusty O-Star AX6S radio with the 4-channel. It works just fine. Yeah, cheapo 550 motor. I'm actually running a 12-tooth pinion, I think. I believe the Traxxas is an 11. I didn't have an 11, so I just went with the next size up, and it seems to work alright, guys. It's definitely first gear still nice and low. Second gear's got some speed, so yeah. Oh, and there's what it looks like. You can see it's got quite a bit of ground clearance. Sits up a little bit on the high side, guys. When there's a body on there, you'll see what I mean. But depending on what you're crawling on, that could be a good thing. And yeah, like I said, there will be another video coming, so stay tuned.